Okay, so I'm back in this particular video. I will be talking about mastering the sign of Taurus. As Taurus, how do you master the sign of Taurus? And Taurus, I know, like a lot of you guys are probably gonna be like, "Oh gosh, here we go, here we go." You might not want to hear what I'm saying, only because of the stubbornness, guys. The stubbornness, which is from the time that I'm recording this video, Uranus is definitely assisting with that because Uranus is transiting Taurus. The time I'm recording this video, and it's going to do so for 7 years straight. I think it's been transiting Taurus for about 4 years now. Releasing you guys and having you guys be a little bit more open to that of the abnormal, shall we say. So what does it take to master the sign of Taurus anyways? Well, I will say this. It always takes making different choices, like having different actions and reactions to situations. But even more, to master the sign of Taurus, like Taurus has to be willing to go deeper into itself. You know, when everything is set aside and the world itself becomes a place of unfamiliar, unknown, unpredictability. The things that you once were able to depend on, you can't depend on those anymore. And as much as you go to seek something to fill that void, that physical void, sometimes you can't go to that anymore. It all of a sudden becomes something that doesn't please anymore. And what is that? You know, when you take into consideration the sign of Taurus, what is that? What does that look like? What are those things? Like, for instance, going to buy something or purchase something physically of beauty or something pleasing, something desirable, you know, something to feel like a very physical nature for you. It doesn't matter. It's like you can get to the point of where it's like, I brought so many things, like I've gotten that already. Like it doesn't feel the same anymore. Going for sexual gratification, you know, where it's like multiple sex partners or being with one person and just indulging into like having a bunch of different sexual experiences with that one person to fill that need. Let's just put it this way. Sometimes Tauruses go towards something that they become obsessive in or indulgent in. When they're looking for some type of emotional satisfaction. This could be eating, you know, becoming like or having the need to emotionally eat. Because it's all done in a very physical way. And see, like, that's what I would like people to understand, even when I'm talking about certain signs. And it hits home and it becomes personal and it triggers people. But the reason why I'm talking about it in the first place is because that is what that sign goes to, like attracts to, adapts to. It's the sign's characteristics. It's not anything personal to anybody, you know. But when these things that I mentioned become a source of something that barricades you in, you know, like it barricades you outside of yourself because there's no connection between the physical body and the physical nature and the physical makeup and your soul. So it barricades that relationship and that connection. And that thing that you're looking for, you're desiring, you want to connect with, you want to fulfill you is now something that you barricaded yourself away from. And usually it looks like stubbornness because, and I mentioned stubbornness at the beginning of the video. Usually it looks like stubbornness. People say, oh yeah, you're being stubborn. But a lot of times Taurus doesn't know how to come outside of. They don't know how to come outside of that barricade that they've made for themselves. Barricade of all these physical things, physical accomplishments. What they show up identically like how they identifying with the world and their surroundings. And listen, people love it. Of course, people like their friends, their family, parents sometimes love it because it's a certain image that Taurus can represent, that represents the way that the structure of society is, you know. It can represent societal norms, right? And withhold and uphold traditions, traditional norms. And that makes any parent proud. That makes any family member or friend proud. Because why? Because as Taurus, you're going to play the friend role. And you're going to play it really good. Even if you're being for real. Listen, just listen. It's all roles that we're playing anyways. As Taurus, that means you're going to be a good supporter of the people that you align yourself with. You know, you're going to play the good child in a good child role, you know, for as long as you can anyways. And it depends on what Taurus you are to say. If earlier on, no, I'm going to rebel. Or if not. But the problem is not the rebelling. The problem is how a lot of times Taurus goes about doing it. You know, think about the bull. It then becomes a weapon against itself because it's running, it's ramming its head. It can be ramming its head into concrete. All it's knowing is like, I want to get beyond this wall. You know, I want to get beyond this barricade that I'm locked in. Not seeing that, hey, you look over there and you go that way, keep following the wall, and then you're going to see an opening and you could just go out. No. So that's where the stubbornness comes in. That's where the sometimes it seems the self-sabotage comes in because of the Taurus is finally saying, hey, I want to escape this thing. You know, the ones that's going to do that, the ones that dares to. The stubbornness a lot of times is not knowing the way out of something. If that makes any sense. And then in return, feeling frustrated with that. And it's like other people, like, you're coming at me. You don't know the way out for me. You know, it's like a lot of pent up tension and emotions because Taurus doesn't really deal with a lot of the emotional aspects of things. Like, yeah, they have emotions there, but Tauruses could be very, very, I see it, I go for it. So to master that, sometimes Taurus needs to allow themselves to think of other ways to do something. Taurus is known to have patience, but listen, that's more of the stubbornness because they'll have patience in a certain direction. You know what I'm saying? They'll have patience in tearing down that wall. And it can benefit you, like Taurus is quite a bit, but then it's not that this doesn't benefit Taurus because, Taurus finds this thing that works and uses it. That's what it uses. It's not that it cannot benefit Taurus. You know what I'm saying? It's just that at a point when it becomes unfulfilling for the Taurus, it's time to master itself. It's time to rise above that, move forward. That's pretty much it. It's time to think of another way. It's mastering the sign of Taurus is saying, what are the other possibilities? What are the other directions that I could go in? It's about adapting your own independent style, nature. Oh, and you know what the interesting thing about this whole thing with Taurus is the fact that, remember when I talked about the emotions and I was saying like Taurus doesn't really deal with the emotions. Like, for example, if you're, let's say if you are, Taurus manages to objectify itself through, listen, just, hey, it's just the nature of the beast, through a lot of societal connections, the system, material relations to things, right? So a Taurus could be in a relationship or a marriage or something like that, and it can be solely for the use of it to solve this need, a functional need. You know, not saying that Tauruses can't be in a relationship for love. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, just a functional need. Like, it can be to the point of where they can place that functional need or necessity over their emotions in a situation. So even when something is long overdue, when something, it needs to end, they can say, wait a minute, but does it do this need or that need? Like, you know, okay, so maybe I shouldn't end it. Because that's where it chooses to not deal with the emotions. You know, that's its sign operating. Functionally operating. So there needs to be a certain type of independence that Taurus adapts for itself in order to master itself. A certain type of independence and mental independence. Not necessarily, the mental independence leads to the physical independence. Okay. Because almost all of the time, Taurus is dependent on something, whether it's a belief system, a tradition, some role, something in the family, some job, some lifestyle. And Taurus has to then break free of that, you know, mentally first. Mentally. Because once you start operating in that mental energy, you start seeing things differently. You start seeing other ways starts becoming available to you. These things that you're functionally operating in, all of a sudden, you're like, okay, what's the meaning of this? It has no meaning, so there has to be something else. You start looking at it as something that could be entrapping you, or you just want to be more consciously aware of the functionality, how you're operating, to have more control over yourself and what you do and what you don't do. You get what I'm saying? So independence is a very big thing. The mental aspect of life, okay? Living, creativity, concepts, learnings, teachings. Hey, let's break free from this teaching to then go explore this teaching over here, because that's what's called how we evolve. And another thing when it comes to mastering the sign of Taurus is becoming connected on a deeper level with the soul connection. Meaning, like, not having these things fulfill the needs. You know, cloud the judgment of, you know, the emotional judgment of what you're needing in the situation. You know, actually getting those needs met and getting those needs fulfilled. Because now you can tap into your soul, like, you know the truth of who you are. You know, you learn about yourself. You go deeper with that. When you want to just reach out to something physical. Now, I'm not saying you got to get rid of all your physical stuff, guys, but it's one step at a time here. When you go to reach for that, you be like, no. Like, what am I needing? What am I really needing in the deep part of me? Like, what do I really want to do? What is my true path? Like, where can I release the steady going, you know, these physical things? Where can I release those roles to really be true to me? Right? Because once Taurus starts becoming a master of itself, starts mastering itself, goes to a higher octave of itself, it's then ruled by the planet Vulcan, that, you know, we don't really talk about much. But Vulcan, which is in between Venus and Mercury. Go figure. I think it's between Venus and Mercury. See? combining those energies. Okay, so this has been long enough, and this is mastering the sign of Taurus. I'm butterflies of light, and you know I'm gonna come back because I always have to.